Hey everybody, I'm Missy.
And I'm April.
And this is SheelaNaGig. Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks for listening. We're always so glad that you're here. Each week, of course, we present and explore our own SheelaNaGig. And for us, that is a woman whose strength and perseverance inspires us, empowers us, and it could be somebody that you've heard of or
haven't heard of.
Right, or haven't heard of. Somebody, sometimes, you might have heard of somebody, but maybe their story hasn't been told well, and we feel like we want to retell their story. Or sometimes it's just a story we want to tell altogether that maybe you've just never heard. Either way, we just want to bring light to these Sheelas. That's our job. That's what we're here to do.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. How are you, April?
I'm well, thanks.
I haven't seen you in a while.
I know. We've been on a little bit of a break. I've missed you.
I know. I've missed you too. April did go to Michigan.
I did. And at Missy's recommendation, Stephen, who grew up in Detroit and who's a real music lover, my husband, has never been to the Motown Museum.
For shame. For shame.
So Missy recommended that we stop in, and oh my gosh, did we have an amazing time. It was a wonderful, wonderful
Did you get
experience.
chills?
Did we get what?
Chills.
Oh, chills. Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's a spiritual experience, in my
really
opinion.
was.
You're
Yeah.
in Studio A where all those things were recorded, and just like the hair on my neck was standing up every time. Every time. I mean, I've probably been like 4 or 5 times. I've been since I was a teenager. I think I went for the first time when I was 16 but I think it's interesting because people here in LA, there's people who've never been to the ocean,
I know.
So I always kind of say that's the same thing. If you're from Detroit and you've never been to the Motown Museum, yeah, you better go.
Well, a friend of my husband's joined us who grew up in Michigan and has never been.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, we had such a great time. We enjoyed it so much that we got you a t-shirt.
I know, and I'm wearing it right now, and I love it. And I'm going to take a picture. Maybe we'll do a reel after this so I can show you my cool gold Motown t-shirt. It's pretty awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Wait, what else do I want to ask you? Oh, your son moved recently.
My son moved up to Eureka, California, which is way up north.
They have good thrifting up there, actually.
They have good everything up there. I had such a wonderful time with him, and then I ended up, he was working. So we got up in Santa Rosa one morning at 5 in the morning, and we drove to this little town called Ferndale, just below Eureka, because he was working at the Ferndale Fairgrounds, and he had to be at work at 10:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And so I went and got keys to his brand new apartment and saw it. It's amazing.
Oh, that's
Shout
so cool.
out to affordable living in Eureka. And then when he got off work, the two of us went to Walmart with 2 shopping carts and filled my rental Jeep, and we had a blast.
What a good mama.
Oh, we set him up.
And I'll bet you he paid for all of it himself.
Oh, yes, of course.
No, that's awesome. That is awesome. I love that. I was up in Half Moon Bay.
Yes. How was Half Moon Bay?
It's so beautiful up there. It is truly beautiful up there. And it was lovely. And I picked up my mother-in-law, and I did that. I did this trip earlier in the fall.
September.
Yeah, September, I guess it was. And I went up there again and brought my mother-in-law to see her niece. And it just was just lovely.
Nice.
Lovely. Yeah, I was glad to go up there. It was pretty freaking cool. And I mean, just the ocean there is just beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, ocean everywhere is beautiful.
Ocean everywhere.
Yeah. And then before I left, my high school boyfriend came to visit.
That's right.
That was pretty special. He and I busted into, we wanted to go. He loves Keith Moon, the drummer of The Who. So he wanted to really find his house. And so we found what seemed to be the address of Keith Moon's house. And we had to bust into this private gated neighborhood along the ocean, which we did.
Of course.
And we started walking, and there's people walking their dogs. They're kind of looking at us funny. I'm just waving, hello, just, and I said to him, just act like we're from here. Act like this, we just belong here. He said, wow, you haven't changed from high school. That's exactly what you used to do in high school. I said, yeah, I know.
This is why the two of you are no longer together. You'd be behind bars.
That's exactly. I told him that. I said, thank God we're not together. But we had so much fun. We went to Watts Towers. We went to Yamashiro for dinner. We went to Chinatown. We went to Little Tokyo.
And with Missy's husband's blessing.
Yes, of course. I took a picture of my first boyfriend and my last boyfriend.
Aww.
Yeah. So it was very special. Shout out to Colin O'Brien. He's a good dude, really good dude. And I had a wonderful time, and it was just great to reconnect. And I'm so glad that we're still friends after all these years. But
very cool.
But yeah, April, we got a lot of ground to cover. I think you have a Sheela for us today, which I am super excited about.
Oh my God.
I don't know who it is, but I'm just excited because she keeps telling me how excited she is about it.
Yeah,
so.
well, my mind is a little blown, to tell you the truth, because when I started to prepare for this podcast, I had something very specific in mind, and it was based on the episode we did about what women couldn't do before the 1970s.
Wasn't that crazy? Yeah, that was a crazy episode. By the way, I listened to my mother-in-law wanted to listen to it because I told her about it.
Yeah.
So we listened to it on the car drive up to Half Moon Bay, and she was blown away. She's like, I don't remember any of that. Are you kidding me? She's, when did I get my credit card? I feel like I've had my credit card forever. I'm like, you haven't.
You have not.
She was shocked. Anyway, go on.
So speaking of credit cards, when I was researching the whole thing on women's finance and banking and all that stuff, I saw an article about 8 women who founded a bank in Denver. And it was like I understood it to be the first bank founded by and run by women.
Okay.
So I wanted to check that out a little bit.
Okay.
So a funny thing happened on my way to checking it out. And what I discovered was the Women's Bank in Denver, Colorado, was not the first bank founded or ran by women. So, of course, my obvious question was, who was first?
What was the first one, right?
What was the first? And I have to be honest with you. When I discovered who the first woman was, I became kind of enraged.
What?
Yeah, I was beyond mad.
Was she a criminal?
No, she wasn't.
I know how you really don't like those criminal Sheelas, so I don't know.
No, I was upset because her name is rarely, if ever, evoked in U.S. history books. And yet her accomplishments really redefine gender and racial barriers in American finance.
Wow.
I think she should be a household name.
Or maybe be on like one of our bills.
Yes,
right?
Certainly within the feminist circles, but I didn't find her in feminist circles. I found her inadvertently because I was chasing down this women's bank in Denver.
Yeah.
And what I found out was that Maggie Lena Walker was not only the first woman to found and run a bank in America, but that was like just one of the many. You know how our Sheelas often do 647 things?
Yes, I know this.
It was just one of the most remarkable things that she did. Like the first female millionaires.
Yes.
Who was
Madam C.J. Walker,
who happened to have been the first woman that both Missy and I featured on SheelaNaGig podcast. And we were going to surprise each other, and we both came up with the same Sheela. Lena was an African-American woman who didn't have formal education, just like Madam C.J. Walker. Mm-hmm. And she was a dynamo, visionary businesswoman and highly, highly accomplished. And yet I'd never heard her name.
I feel like I have.
Okay.
But I feel like I don't know anything about her.
Right.
But I feel like I've heard her name.
She's been recognized during African American history. But I feel like, why is she off in the periphery?
Right.
Why isn't she somebody that we just celebrate boldly? Because she is unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to hear.
Yeah. So today I'm not going to talk about the Women's Bank of Denver. I thought I was. That'll be part 2 because that is another story. And it's another story with a twist. It was where I came in with one thought and came out entirely with another, which I'll share next time we record.
Yeah.
But I really want to talk about Maggie Lena Walker today.
Maggie Lena Walker. I think, remember when I used to bring women's history to our networking group?
Yes.
For some reason, I feel like maybe it was her birthday or it was her, that. I think that's how I know her name. Like she was one of the women I mentioned, but didn't do any research about, because that name does really ring a bell. But anyway, okay, bring it. I'm ready. I'm excited. Okay.
So a year before the U.S. Civil War ended, in a period of extreme racism and sexism, although there have been many periods of extreme racism and sexism.
Yeah, kind of right now, too.
Yeah, not sure we're over it. Maggie Draper Mitchell, who would become known as Maggie Lena Walker, chartered a bank in 1903, becoming the first, and it said, Black woman in the United States to serve as a bank president. Well, cross out Black woman, she was the first woman, period.
Wow.
And she founded that bank in response to huge discriminatory practices against women in banking, lending, and credit. And while we were focusing on how that was an incident in the 70s, 1970s, here she was back in the 1900s, early 1900s, addressing this issue. But Maggie Lena Walker represents so much more, as I was saying, than her contributions to women in finance and banking. She was born in Richmond, Virginia on July 15th, 1864, and her mother, Elizabeth Draper, was a former slave, and she was an assistant cook to abolitionist and philanthropist Elizabeth Van Lew. And Van Lew had been a spy for the Union during the Civil War.
Ooh, a spy for the... We gotta, wait, she's got to be Sheela, too, I would imagine, right?
Interesting. Let's stick a pin in Elizabeth Van Lew's
to stick
name.
pins and things.
And we'll
okay,
revisit
let's do it.
her. Okay. But getting back to Maggie's mother, Elizabeth Draper, she met a man by the name of Eccles Cuthbert, an Irish-American journalist for the New York Herald, who was based in Virginia. And
I love that name.
Yeah.
Eccles what?
Cuthbert.
I love him. Eccles. I don't think I've ever heard the name Eccles before.
Well, Eccles will disappear very quickly from this story because that was how Maggie Draper Mitchell was conceived. But Eccles and Elizabeth never married. And he kind of went back to, I guess,
rogue.
New York or wherever he came from.
Right.
And the only proof that he ever came to Virginia was that Maggie was conceived.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the Van Lews, going back to Elizabeth's employers, were Quakers, and they didn't believe in slavery. And so they freed Elizabeth, and she remained with the family after she earned her freedom, working in various roles with the Van Lew family and independently as a laundress.
Okay.
So Elizabeth Maggie.
That's nice. I mean,
Yeah.
you love the Quakers. I know you love the Quakers.
I do love the Quakers.
I like
have
the Quakers
quite
too.
An affinity for them.
She does have an affinity for the Quakers.
Yes.
She even said in one episode that she would leave her husband for a nice Quaker.
Did I say that?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, thank you.
You didn't really say that, but I think I said something about would you date, or like if you weren't married, would you date or marry a Quaker?
Definitely.
And you were like, yeah,
I
you
love
like the Quakers.
values of Quakers.
Okay, sorry. I digress,
anyway,
but
we
you know,
digress.
I always do. You can count on it. Okay, go.
So Elizabeth Maggie's mother did end up marrying a man by the name of William Mitchell, and he was a butler at the Van Lew estate. Soon after Maggie's birth, they married, and in 1870, Maggie's half-brother, Johnny Mitchell, was born. When William became head waiter of the St. Charles Hotel, he moved his family to their very own home on College Alley, which was off Broad Street near Miss Van Lew's home, where Maggie and her half-brother and Johnny were raised. So they grew up in this very affluent, white household that was very liberal, anti-slavery. Certainly, Ms. Van Lew was very progressive.
Yeah.
And so Maggie's first idea or knowledge of a white family was not particularly racist or hostile to African Americans. So unfortunately, or sadly, as we often say, William was found drowned in a river.
What?
Yeah, and his death was ruled a suicide by police. But Maggie maintained that her husband had been murdered.
Oh.
William's death left Elizabeth and her children in poverty, and to make ends meet, she began a laundry business where Maggie helped out by delivering clean laundry to their white patrons. And it was during this time that Maggie really developed an awareness of the gap between quality of life between white people and Black people.
Mm.
Maggie later said, "I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but with a laundry basket practically on my head."
Aw.
She did attend school while assisting her mother at the laundrette. And at age 14, she joined the Independent Order of St. Luke's, which was an African-American benevolent organization that helped sick and elderly people in Richmond. And the order really promoted the values of self-help, moral values, and mutual community support. The St. Luke Order would play a critical role throughout Maggie's entire life. While helping her mother at the laundry, Maggie was introduced to a community of African Americans who spent their collective time together, mostly women, washing clothes. And while they did this, they would talk about the solution to their community's problems. So she became really aware of how African American families really struggled, dealt with racial issues, and dealt with poverty. And as a member of the First African Baptist Church of Richmond, like many Black churches of the time, this church served as an economic, political, and social hub for the local Black community.
Nice.
And Maggie was really indoctrinated into that culture.
It's nice. It's cool.
Yeah. She graduated from the Richmond Colored Normal School in 1883, part of the segregated Richmond public school system. And the Black students were supposed to receive diplomas in a church while the white students could walk into a theater.
Oh my God.
And the Black
I hate shit like that. I just can't wrap my head around it.
But the Black seniors actually protested and at the split graduation and the choice of the church as their venue. And their principal informed that they could only combine events if they were seated in a segregated way. So the students decided to graduate from their school auditorium, rejecting the church idea and rejecting the segregated seating.
All right.
And Wendell Dadby was one of the graduates, an influential civil rights organizer. And he claimed that this was the first school strike of Negroes in America.
Oh,
10
so
students.
cool.
Yeah, it was 10 students who graduated from the Richmond Colored Normal School that year, and Maggie Walker was among them.
Wow. Very, very cool. I mean, so sad, so tough, but glad they fought for that.
Yeah, they stood their ground, and these experiences early in life really shaped and affected Maggie.
Of course.
So after graduation, she worked as a teacher at Valley School, and being very industrious and hardworking, she also worked part-time as an insurance agent with the Women's Union while she took night classes in accounting. The Women's Union was a cooperative organization of women that engaged in businesses to meet the needs of Richmond, Virginia's African American communities. So remember I said, like many of our Sheela, she did millions of different things.
Of course she did. I'm not going to say it, April.
She didn't work in the dead letter office. I had to say it. Sorry. Sorry, going back
Oh
to...
my God. Why?
Maggie, what was the Maggie that worked in the dead letter office? It was a Maggie also.
Oh yeah, it was the creator of Monopoly. Yeah.
Elizabeth Maggie. Lizzie Maggie.
Lizzie, that was it. Lizzie Maggie.
Okay.
That's what threw me off.
Yeah. She didn't work for the dead letter office like Lizzie Maggie. Okay. I'm sorry.
You had to. Why?
I had to go there.
Why?
Because it always makes me laugh.
I know.
I'm
you had
sorry.
to. Okay.
I'm probably the only one, right? So anyway, getting back to our Maggie now, in 1885, she co-initiated the juvenile division within St. Luke's, and this was a program that was dedicated to instilling pride, thrift, and responsibility among the community's children, and she became the organization's leader. By 1899, St. Luke's was experiencing financial difficulties, and Maggie had advanced to the order's top leadership position, and she saw an opportunity to restore St. Luke's economic stability. She undertook a membership drive that drove new members across 22 states. She went on a speaking circuit telling captivating stories that urged economic independence for uplifting her race. And for Maggie, this included encouraging women to enter the business world and for Black consumers to support African American enterprises.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I have to say, she was an advocate both for women and for African Americans, and really stuck to this mission for her entire life.
So cool.
So after 3 years of working as a school teacher, Maggie married Armstead Walker in 1886, and Armstead's father owned a successful bricklaying and construction business. Her quote here summarizes her views on marriage. And since marriage is an equal partnership, I believe that the woman and the man are equal in power and should, by consultation and agreement, mutually decide as to the conduct of the home and the government of the children.
I love her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell me she wasn't a feminist before we ever used the word feminism.
Yeah.
And
did her husband abide by this?
Oh, yes. Yep. He
Armstead?
saw her, Armstead saw her as an equal partner.
And I love his name.
Yes. Yeah. But,
No.
under school policy at the time as a married woman, Maggie had to resign from her teaching position because married women didn't teach. Yeah. So she started working
ridiculous.
for the Order of Luke, where she had already held high-ranking leadership positions as a volunteer and layperson. So once Maggie and Armstead were married, they adopted a daughter, Polly Anderson, and then they went on to have 3 sons, Russell Armstead Mitchell Walker, who was born in 1893, but who sadly died 7 months later, and then Melvin DeWitt Walker, who was born in 1897.
I love their names.
Yeah.
I wish we had names like that now. Those are such good names.
Talmadge, Armstead, and Melvin.
Yeah.
So in 1904, Maggie bought a home for $4,800. She was married at the time, but decided to keep the deed in her name since it was purchased with her money.
Could she do that legally at that time? I feel like she couldn't.
We said that she couldn't, but I think she had her husband's support and permission.
Oh, maybe that was it.
Yeah,
so he signed for it, then she could do that.
Yeah, Armstead was a complete supporter and advocate in equalstead in their relationship.
That's so nice.
So after a remodel, she moved into the house a year later with her husband, Armstead, her mother, Elizabeth Draper Mitchells, and her son, Russell and Melvin, and their adopted daughter, Margaret Polly Anderson Payne. Eventually, her daughter-in-law and grandchildren would also occupy this home. It became sort of a legacy family home, and Maggie enjoyed entertaining, and among her guests were prominent individuals like Langston Hughes, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Mary McLeod Bethune. Sadly, some tragedy struck on June 20th, 1914. This is really sad. When Maggie's son, Russell Walker, at the age of 24 or 25, not entirely sure which, shot and killed their father, Armstead, accidentally.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty horrible.
Oh, no. That's so sad.
Isn't it? Russell mistaken his father for a burglar with whom he and his father had been searching for. There was a burglar on the premises, and Russell unfortunately thought his dad was the burglar. And Russell was arrested and charged with murder. And after 5 months of awaiting trial, he was found not guilty. But the loss of her husband left Maggie to manage a large household. And fortunately, her work and her investments, shrewd investments and financial planning, ensured the family's financial security.
That's great.
Russell very sadly never recovered from his father's death, and after 8 years of battling depression and alcoholism, he died on November 23rd, 1923.
Of what?
Depression and alcoholism.
Okay.
Yeah, it just kind of went down the tubes.
I get it.
After Russell's death, his wife Harriet, also known as Hattie, and their daughter Maggie Laura Walker moved in with Maggie in Richmond, and Hattie became a trusted advisor to Maggie within the Independent Order of St. Luke's, where Maggie was employed, and her granddaughter quickly, as she got older, rose up those ranks as well.
Oh, that's so nice.
So going back to Maggie and her many, many contributions and roles, she ultimately transformed the St. Luke Order, which was near bankruptcy at one point, into an organization with over 100,000 members across 26 states. The organization became a catalyst for economic empowerment for within Black communities. That was what drove Maggie, and that was what drove the reforms that saved the organization from ruin and bankruptcy. In 1902, under the St. Luke organization banner, Maggie established a newspaper and a department store.
What? Wait. That both at the same time, out of nowhere. What?
Yep. The newspaper, the St. Luke Herald, grew the organization by securing 4,000 subscribers in 1916. The paper covered events of the St. Luke Order, including the economic health of its various enterprises. But it also fought for racial equality. The paper condemned the state of Virginia for disenfranchising Black voters when it legalized literacy tests and poll taxes at the voting booth. And it also called on Richmond's African-American community to boycott the city's trolley car system to protest segregation. The peaceful community resistance that lasted for more than a year inflicted so much financial damage on the Richmond Trolley Car Company, it was forced to into receivership, and proving that coordinated economic resistance could become a viable, effective tactic.
That's great. That's awesome.
So when I say Maggie did so much more, we didn't even get to the bank yet.
No.
Notice I haven't said banking in a while.
No. And now we're into the store, right?
Right. So the following year, Maggie made a bold but carefully planned move into banking. John P. Branch, a former president...
Wait, you're not going to tell me about the store she opened at the same time she opened the newspaper?
She did, but let's stick a pin in the store.
We're sticking a pin in this? Okay,
Yes.
We're sticking a pin in the store. Okay.
Yeah. So John P. Branch was the former president of Merchants National Bank of Richmond and a member of the American Bankers Association. And he, a support bro, arranged for Maggie to apprentice at his bank for a few hours a day to learn banking and accounting.
Support bro.
When the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank opened in late 1903, Maggie became the first, and again, African-American, no, cross out African, she became the first American woman to found, charter, and serve as the president of a bank in the United States.
Wow.
And St. Luke's also became the fourth Black bank in Richmond.
Nice.
So the bank opened with more than 9,000 deposits, and within 3 years, St. Luke had accumulated deposits totaling 170,000, enabling the bank to make loans to Black homeowners and businesses. By 1920, the bank financed more than 600 home loans to residents in Richmond's predominantly Black Jackson Ward community.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yep. At the time, many white banks used racist practices like charging bank customers higher interest rates than white customers and not serving African Americans at all. Institutions like St. Luke Penny Savers Bank provided capital for new businesses and promoted home ownership within the Black community. But as I mentioned, St. Luke's Penny Bank was one of 5 Black-owned banks operating in Richmond at the turn of the 20th century, but it was the only bank run by a woman. And Maggie wanted to provide an alternative to menial labor-intensive jobs that often Black women were subjected to. And so she started hiring African American women.
Of course she did.
And in 1904, the order purchased a building on Broad Street to house its new department store and moved the bank into the store.
Wow.
So it became a hub that enabled, and with Maggie's encouragement, African American community members to do their business in that building, to shop. And that was the purpose of the department store. That's why I wanted to stick a pin in there. The department store, the newspaper, and the bank all ran and were envisioned by Maggie as ways of supporting the African American community in generally or largely, and specifically provide opportunities for African American women to work, to become educated, to earn a higher wage of living, and have a higher quality of life.
So great.
Maggie encouraged members of the community to shop at the department store as a way of literally combating racism.
Mm-hmm.
This point was highlighted in a speech she gave in 1906 in which she implored an all-male audience to patronize the two businesses. The bank is there, she said. The store is there, and Negro men and women are there earning a living and getting a business education. Women of your race, your own flesh and blood, as polite and as capable as any other woman on Broad Street. But they are Negro women, and therefore some of you pass them by, go above and below or across the street, preferring to feed the lion of prejudice rather than your own women.
Love her.
Isn't that powerful?
She's very powerful.
I mean, this is why I was so upset when I discovered her. It's like, why aren't we bowing to her?
Yeah.
She was a visionary. It wasn't just that she ran a bank. That was almost a sub-note to so many other things that she did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure she ran into a lot of repercussions. I'm sure it was not easy, even within her own Black community. I'm sure she got some resistance from some of the men, as sort of a sexist thing.
That's why she was giving that speech, because African American men weren't going into women populated bank and department stores to shop.
Right.
And, it was like, what the heck are you doing?
Right. Good for her.
Yeah. So in 1929, as we all know, the stock market crashed. And that prompted Maggie to adeptly lead a merger between her bank and two other Black-owned banks in Richmond. She went on to serve as chairman of the board of directors of the new bank, Consolidated Bank and Trust, a position that she held until her death in 1934.
Okay.
So after an illness in 1928, Maggie was confined to a wheelchair.
Oh.
And although limited in movement, she remained a leader in the Richmond African American community, and she fought arduously for women's rights. And for so much of her life, she served as a board member of the Virginia Industrial School for Girls, another role that she had to empower young African American
Yet
girls.
another venture.
On December 15th, 1934, Maggie died of complications due to diabetes. Her house, as I mentioned earlier in Richmond, has since been designated as a National Historic Site by the National Park Service.
All right, we're going to Richmond.
Yes.
Get added to our list.
Yep. Another SheelaNaGig podcast field trip.
Yep.
Throughout her life, Maggie advocated for racial equality and women's rights. She championed entrepreneurship and education, specifically and especially for the African Americans and for women and girls. She also volunteered for a number of organizations related to education and racial equality. She established and maintained a community house in Richmond that helped recruit and keep visiting nurses and advised on the Piedmont Sanitarium for Black people with tuberculosis in Burkeville, Virginia. She also handled the funds for the St. Luke's Order, including the economic health of its various enterprises. But it also fought for all kinds of racial justice. And the National League of Republican Colored Women participated in women's suffragette and voter registration campaigns and helped form the Virginia Lily Blank Republican Party. Maggie ran unsuccessfully for Virginia's superintendent of public instruction at one point in her life.
Of course she did.
Of course she did. Busy life.
In a spare time. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Maggie.
Maggie Walker received an honorary master's degree from Virginia Union University in 1925, and she became a trustee there in 1931. She also served as the trustee to the National Training School in Washington, D.C., and she was inducted into the Junior Achievement U.S. Business Hall of Fame in none other than 2001. On July 15, 2017, a statue of Maggie designed by Antonio Tobias Mendez was unveiled at the Maggie L. Walker Memorial Plaza on Broad Street in Richmond. And the Washington Post noted that the bronze 10-foot statue depicts her, in quotes, as she lived, her glasses pinned to her lapel and a checkbook in her hand.
Oh, how cute. I love that.
In 2020, Maggie Walker
I shouldn't say cute, but it is kind of sweet. It's kind of sweet. I shouldn't say cute. It's kind of sweet, but it's also, I mean, it's just very powerful. It's amazing is what it is. That's so cool. She's got the checkbook in her hand. She's ready to go.
And it was so symbolic of her economic impact, saving the order, building this local organization to a 22-state powerhouse that empowered and leveraged both African-American families and specifically women and girls. I mean, it's just mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
In 2020, Maggie Walker was one of 8 women achievers featured in the Only One in the Room display at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. But I really just, Missy, I felt like this isn't enough.
I know.
We should just know this woman because she was such a powerhouse, such a visionary, well ahead of her time.
Yeah.
When women in banking really became an issue in the 70s, at the early 1900s, Maggie was already addressing that very issue.
Yeah.
And without the laws on her side, she found ways to empower women, teach them about finance, become higher wage earners.
Yeah.
And really took to task African-American men for not supporting their women.
Yeah. I love that.
So this was supposed to be a podcast about predominantly white women, although I'll get into that more in my next episode, in Denver, who founded a women's-run, women's-oriented bank. And
we've probably heard more about them than we have about her, honestly, right?
Yes. Honestly, yes.
I mean, I've heard of the Women's Bank of Denver, and I think of that being like the first women's bank or something, which it wasn't.
And also, when I come back to do that, I will share some surprises that I encountered when I did my research into that. But I just really wanted to acknowledge Maggie Walker because she was a dynamic woman, and I would say the foremother to the feminist movement, and just really transformed so many lives.
Yeah. Amazing. I love her.
That was my Sheela.
Does she have living relatives now? Do you know?
I believe she does. And her house is still, people could tour her house.
Wow.
In Richmond. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's books. I hope there's books.
There are books.
Right?
There are books.
Is there a documentary yet?
I don't think there's a documentary, but hopefully we'll inspire one on our
we
podcast.
need to start our own documentary company as well, I think. And a lot of these women who haven't had films or documentaries made about them yet.
Yes, because certainly we should know more about her.
We should know. And now we do know a little bit more about her.
Maggie Lena Walker.
Maggie Lena Walker. I'm delighted to learn about her. I have such respect. I'm in awe. I'm in awe of her. She's definitely a Sheela. Maybe we should start doing T-shirts of our Sheelas too. Wouldn't that be good?
Oh, I would love that.
And so if you learn about one of our Sheelas and it's a great episode and you think, I want to wear that T-shirt. I love this woman. I want to put this woman on my T-shirt. I think we're going to do that, April. Let's put a pin in that for the new year. The SheelaNaGig podcast Sheela shirts.
Yes, I love it.
Oh, let's do it. Okay, we're going to do that, you guys. Do you like that idea? Maybe you should email us or reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook and tell us what you think of that idea. Or you could listen to us on one of our many pod platforms and respond there. We really appreciate your comments and your questions, your reviews. We really could use your reviews too. So, as always, we thank you for being with us and we thank you for fighting the fight along with us.
Yay.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Unabashed in your glow.